Well, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We have snow in Toronto. Fun. My name is Said Lama. Again, I'm the account manager for the civil industry for SolidCAD. Today, we have Matt Culver, we have Jay Kwan, and we also have Colin Godet. Big team today. We're going to be talking about pipe networks and what the industry best practices are when you're working with these features. Again, we're going to be recording this. It's going to be available in our YouTube channel. So please go to our website, click on the bottom, of the YouTube button at the top of the site, and you'll get there. It's a bunch of new videos we've been adding. So please spend some time there. Have some fun.
If you're confused at all, I'm pretty sure that Saeed's PowerPoint probably should say pipe networks.
Yes. Pipe networks.
Yeah. Good.
So a little bit of the agenda today. So we're gonna start with custom catalogs. Then Matt's gonna be talking a little bit of parlays and network setups. And then we're gonna move to pipe and structures, and we're gonna end with plant production and Q&A. There will be no audio for questions, so please use a question panel on your side. And if you wanna make a comment, please use the chat section as well. So if you have time, we're going to be addressing those questions along the way. A little bit of SolidCAD. This is our group of companies. So this allows us to provide a complete solution, ensuring that you have all the software and hardware needs. This is some of the things that we've been doing for over 25 years. So we've been helping customers making things faster, increase their margins, and reduce business risk. So highlighting some of our services, we like training is famous, our data management solution, our workflow assessments, and customizations, among others. The industry we serve, AEC, civil infrastructure, and manufacturing are our main industry. We also step out a little bit when a customer has a specific need. And some of the products that we work with, Autodesk, you all know Autodesk, Bluebeam, especially these days when you need to run remote meetings, Bluebeam comes very handy with the studio sessions, Safe Software in the CTC, and our rest of the lineup. Our coming events, so I'd like to take a little bit of time here to let you know about our productivity tools for civil. We're going to start doing this type of webinar starting this Thursday. On the left side, we're going to start talking about the SIM project suite productivity tools for site design. So site development projects often fall through the cracks when it comes to civil, from utility design to ship production. So this webinar will showcase site design workflows in Civil 3D using our tools, the SIM project tools. We're also gonna launch the Auto Grader and the Label Genie. So please stay tuned for those tools. Also this week, tomorrow, we have our workshop about the self-assembly composer. So if you ever thought about jumping into this tool or refining some of your skills, this is a great chance. So please reach out if you want to enroll. There's some way we can get you in. So please connect with me after the webinar. Finally, just a reminder about our service bundles. If you're looking for a solution, data management solution, off-premise, on cloud, just to keep your team working and accessing their data. So right now, BIM 360 has a free trial until the end of May. So if you wanna know more about this, please reach out. Also, we have our Bluebeam bundles. So basically, those are Kickstarter bundles. Bluebeam also has a very interesting trial these days due to COVID. So there's a little nice things we can do and take advantage of these opportunities. Finally, our accelerated to BIM tools, workflow assessments, development templates, everything. We can do a lot of stuff now while working from home. So maybe this is a good time to step back a little bit and refine your workflow environment. Getting ready for when we're back to normal. So Matt, I'm gonna hand over to you. Let's start with the cool stuff.
Okay, thank you. Let me show my screen. All right, you should see my pipe networks PowerPoint.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Welcome everybody, and thanks for coming. Thanks a lot, actually. You know, we've had really good reception to these. This is the third one so far, and today there were 130 people signed up. So far, there's about 91. I took a quick look through the list, and I see some repeat visitors, which is great. I see some of my customers in there, some friends and stuff. So you know who you are. Thank you very much. So my name is Matt Kohlberg, as Saeed said. I'm the Western Canada Civil 3D sort of specialist, civil technologist. Colin and Jay are going to be manning the question board today. So if you have any questions, they are in your hands. We will be reviewing the questions every so often as well. So I'll stop doing what I'm doing. I'll call on Jay. We're going to talk about some of the questions. Just maybe you have one in your mind or you haven't thought of it yet. And so we're here to educate. Also, the PowerPoint that you see is also available in your GoToWebinar panel. You'll see a handouts section. There's one, and so feel free to download that. It's exactly what you're going to see today. And that's about it. I might as well get started. So pipe networks best practices. There's a little bit of pressure network stuff in here as well, and a little bit of a surprise about halfway through or so. You'll see what I mean in a second. So here's the agenda for today. We'll start with custom catalogs. We'll talk about parts lists and what you need to make a parts list and some ideas about making a parts list. We'll talk about creating the pipe networks themselves. We'll talk about creating the actual pipes and the structures, and then a little bit about planned production. So your custom catalog. All right, right away, I see my blue dot there up at the top right. That means I have a poll question for you. I'm going to talk a little bit first, and I'm going to ask you a question. So Civil 3D comes shipped with a pipe networks catalog and a pressure networks catalog. Two very different technologies. One uses a combination of the part builder and the infrastructure parts editor, or IPE, as my guy Colin likes to call it. And the pressure networks uses something else, the content catalog explorer. So it comes with a reasonable amount of parts. Let's focus now on the pipe networks. There's several different materials to choose from, you know, HDPE, concrete, PVC, that kind of thing, and a bunch of different sizes. And then of course it comes with structures as well. A lot of my customers realize that they need additional materials and they need additional parts. So it is entirely possible to create custom content for your pipes. It's actually not that hard. Takes a little bit of practice. So if you're thinking about creating some custom content, you know, consider calling on us. We've done it already, and we can guide you through best practices on how to do that. We can help you make your own custom catalog. You know, you can make any material name you want, and you can make almost any size you'd like. Which brings us to our first poll. I've got 3. So let me pick it here. I'm going to launch the poll. Go ahead and vote. I'll give you a few seconds to vote, and then I'll pop up the results. All right, so you should be seeing the poll on the screen. It's just yes or no. So do you create custom parts? Do you have a custom catalog? That's the first question. All right, 65% of people voted so far. I'll give you a few more seconds. %, slowing down a little bit. It's closer to 50-50 than I thought it was going to be. Okay, that's probably enough time. Not everybody's voted yet. That's okay. It's pretty close to 50-50, so I'll close this up. And I'll share the results. There you go. Really close to 50-50. Half of you are making custom parts and half of you aren't. So that's great. I would love to ask, are you happy with it? Are you following best practices? That's getting into the weeds a little bit too much. So I'm not going to bother asking that one. So I'll close that poll, or I'll hide it, that is. We'll get back to my PowerPoint. So, excuse me. When you create a custom catalog, there's a way to do it that works well, and there's a way to do it that doesn't work as well. Now, I'm never going to tell my students or my recipients that you're doing something wrong necessarily. If you get something done that works for you, you've done something right, so kudos. There's ways to do things, however, that result in easier editing and easier, let's say, migration later. When you create a custom part, you use the part builder. We're still talking about pipe networks here. The image on the right, that's what the part builder looks like, and the command is just part builder. And I'm not going to really investigate the part builder today because that's just getting into the weeds again. But it's really quite easy to just simply add a new pipe size. If there's a pipe size missing that you need, it's going to take you a minute, really. Once you learn how to do it, it takes about a minute to create. To make custom materials, like, well, HDPE already exists, but to make a material like that already, that's getting into it a bit more. It's again not that difficult, but then there's a more efficient way to do it compared to the way a lot of people do it. For example, have a look at the image on my top left. That's a snippet from a parts catalog, and you can see I have two pipe materials. I've got a SolidCAD PVC pipe and a CanCell PVC pipe. It's not just PVC. So I spent the time to do it right, and I actually have custom materials created. And there's one big reason to do this. Migrating your parts forward is going to be a lot easier. If you can create your custom material the most efficient way, when you upgrade to 2021 or 2024, whenever that comes out, it's going to be easier for you to migrate your custom parts forward. You see, the software, Civil 3D, Autodesk is always, tweaking their catalogs a little bit. I shouldn't say always, but they've tweaked their catalogs a little bit. So imagine you have your catalog that you created 4 years ago, and then you upgrade to 2021, and then you just migrate your catalog forward, and maybe that's fine. Maybe that's all you ever need. But there's a chance that you're missing out on some good stuff that was just released. For example, 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years, there's some brand new, really cool structures that Civil 3D released with multiple attachment points. And if you're just taking your old catalog and bringing it forward, you probably wouldn't even notice that. So it's a great idea when you're creating custom catalogs to create them essentially from scratch. Don't take an existing one and just start adding to it. Make a new one from scratch. That way you can always have the latest and greatest that comes with the software. You just add your own custom stuff onto it. Within your custom catalog, you can create custom properties. Let me zoom in here. We've all seen this kind of interface. You've got a 5mm wall thickness, 100mm diameter pipe. It's PVC, it's all this stuff. Part description, that's SolidCAD PVC pipe because that came from my custom catalog. But have a look at these two. I have a date property and I have a class property, in this case DR35 or maybe DR3028. And the date, maybe I should have said installation date or whatever. It's a date, it's a custom property. I can put anything in there that I like. So as you're adding pipe content to your drawing, you can enter this information, which can be useful later, if it has to go into some GIS program. Does this information easily go into GIS right now? Not really, but I'm hoping in the future that it will, right? If I take my pipes and export to, let's say, SDF, the custom content like the date and the class currently don't go with it. So, but if I can put these in here, the pipe does have that information, and if and when that ability comes around, I'm going to be ready for it. Now the middle piece. You may have seen this error. Unable to edit network part. Required pipe network catalog not set, or worse, let's say missing. When you edit a catalog, you're editing that catalog on your computer. So let's say you add a new pipe size that's 325 millimeters. Great. You can create 325 millimeter diameter pipes in the drawing, and it's going to work great. Your colleague opens it tomorrow, Wednesday, and they see your pipe and they see your label 325. Like, hey, I like that pipe size. I want to add my own pipe size. And so they start editing your pipe network, and they don't see a 325 millimeter pipe in the list of pipes, and they wonder why. It's because the definition of that pipe is on your computer. The pipe that you created, yes, it's in the drawing, and your recipient or your colleague can label that pipe. They can make minor adjustments to it, but they cannot create their own 325 millimeter diameter pipe because they don't have it defined in their own catalog. So best practice indicates the very second you start adding or modifying your pipe catalog and you expect other people to use it, you need that catalog file available. Saeed texted me and he said, am I showing Civil 3D? I'm not showing Civil 3D yet. I'm just showing my my PowerPoint. There's not much to show in Civil 3D yet. Thanks, Saeed. You need to make your catalog available to everybody else. So be that on a network share, and then everybody points their computer to that network share, or maybe you have some kind of replication software. So let me get into Civil 3D now, and I'll show you what I mean. All right, here is Civil 3D. Let me just make sure that you can see it. All right, that looks good. Really, it's just a matter of doing this. In your Home tab, I'm going to go here, Create Design, and set the pipe network catalog. That sets the path to my custom catalog. As you can see, mine's going here. That is not the out-of-the-box location for it. And so the best practice is take your catalog, put it up on your server someplace, and point everybody's computer to it. Now, what happens when you send your drawing out of the office to some other consultant? Same thing. If you would like them to be able to create new parts, a 325 diameter pipe, you're going to have to send them your catalog. If you don't need them to be able to do that, and they just want to open the drawing and let's say print it, then you don't have to send them a catalog. Your pipe is embedded in that drawing, and they'll be able to open it, see it, label it. That's fine. They're just not going to be able to create new content. By the way, pressure networks, same thing. It's a different catalog. And so my pressure network is going to someplace on my hard drive, and I'm going to set it to the steel one. There. So gravity catalogs, pressure catalogs, right, they're both set. That's your typical best practice for catalogs. Parts lists. A parts list is composed of several different things. First being layers and styles. You have pipes, you have structures. There's styles for both. And there's potential layers for both as well. And there's a little sort of gotcha I'm going to show you in a second. Now, if you've been using Civil 3D for a while, you understand that it does its best job to try to help you maintain your drawing standards. When you create a corridor, it puts it on the appropriate corridor layer. Same thing for alignments, same thing for, well, pretty much just about everything, right? Here's my drawing settings. When I make an alignment in this drawing, it goes on layer C road. When I make a corridor, it goes on C road core. Fantastic. I've got some modifiers that can be used to add, let's say, the object name to that layer. So for example, if I have an alignment called Berard, and I choose to use a suffix as a modifier, my layer is going to be C road, let's say maybe underscore Berard. So every alignment can be placed on its own individual unique layer. Pipes, same thing. We have a default pipe layer here of C storm pipe. We have structure layers, we have pipe label layers, same deal. If you have use of the modifier, you can use that as well. And that's sort of one way to work. You can have multiple layers for that. Or let's say a lot of my customers prefer, I want to have existing pipes on the X pipe layer or the X storm layer. And then proposed maybe goes on P storm, and then future goes on F storm. I don't know, whatever your layering convention is. This sort of interface isn't all that flexible for the layering standards that I'm accustomed to seeing from a lot of my customers. So a lot of times we'll just put the pipes on C storm pipe. They're all on that layer, but then we just use the styles to affect the display. So for example, I'll open up a pipe drawing here, parts lists. If you've been using Civil 3D for a while, you know that there's really two layers for almost everything. There's the layer that the object resides on, for example, an alignment. C-road, alignment can exist on that layer. But then there's the style that's embedded inside, there's the layer that's embedded inside the style. And so the object is on one layer, but the style, the subcomponents are possibly potentially on another layer. Here's what I mean. I've got some styles for pipes. Just have a look at my list for a second. Look at how I organize my layers. I've got a couple of layers for existing sanitary sewer. One's for crossings, right, which will typically show up as an ellipse in profile. And the other one is for pipes that are usually parallel to your alignment, which would show up like this in a profile. So I have existing sanitary sewer, I've got proposed sanitary. Existing storm, proposed storm. So I have a style for every kind of utility type. And the way the style is organized, when I open this up, the display tab tells all. There it is. All my components go on layer X san for this particular style. So when the pipes are created, every single pipe, doesn't matter what network it exists on, it goes on C storm pipe or whatever layer you choose in your drawing settings. And then the styles really do the controlling of how everything is perceived. Now, do you have to do it this way? Certainly not. There's a number of different ways you could do this. This is the way I've found to work the best in most situations. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about crossing pipes, just for example. Here's a typical design. You got your alignment that sort of goes from west to east. And a lot of my pipes are also from west to east. Those are parallel, roughly, to my alignment. Now, sometimes you're going to have a pipe that's, for the most part, perpendicular to your alignment. And you have to show both of these pipes in profile view. And for now, it's pretty obvious how they should be displayed. Okay, in profile, the one that's parallel to the alignment needs to look like that, and the one that's perpendicular needs to look like that, like an ellipse. That's pretty typical stuff. But what if that crossing pipe is at this angle? What if it's at this angle? What if it's at this angle? Now what? Do you still show it as an ellipse, or do you show it as if it was parallel? Or maybe do you show it both? The point is Civil 3D doesn't know what you want. And so you have to use styles to tell it. So the way I organize my drawings, you have to pick one that's the default, which is the most common, probably parallel. And then in this case, I would come in after and change the style of this pipe to the crossing style so that when it's projected into the profile, it shows up as an ellipse. Here's the gotcha I was telling you about. Enable part masking. If you turn that on and you change your current annotative scale, this can happen. It's sort of a pain in the butt, to be quite honest. And that really just comes from enable part masking. There's sort of ways to get around it, but it can certainly affect things, and it'll print this way. So personally, I don't use part masking. What I will do is I'll have an AutoCAD block where this is a solid hatch, color 255, so it prints white. The pipes will go to the middle of that structure, but because the structure, there's a solid hatch inside the structure, it doesn't show. So my experience is that part masking, at least for plan view, has some idiosyncrasies. All right, I'll talk about these two things, then we'll have a look at the question panel. Rules and pay items. So rules, I wouldn't really pay a ton of attention here. It's a start point for you to design your pipes. When you're laying out pipes in Civil 3D, you pick a structure location first, you pick another structure location, and then Civil 3D draws a pipe in between. Civil 3D needs to assign elevations to these, and so it uses the rules to do so. So let's say this is my existing ground in profile. When you add the first structure, it adds it. When you add the second structure, it adds it. Then it connects them with pipes. But what elevation did it use here? Well, it used minimum cover. So at first, let's say my cover is 1.5 meters. I add the first structure, this is exactly 1.5, that's exactly 1.5 on the second structure. Then it connects them with a pipe. And then it does two more things based on our slope rule. It says, is the slope adequate? If it's not, it increases the slope. Then it says, am I achieving minimum cover along the entire length of the pipe? If so, it leaves it. If not, it does what it has to do. It either lowers the start, the end, or both to ultimately achieve both cover and slope. So that's what the rules do, which is great, but it's just a start point. Every storm sewer design that I've been part of, that was a great start point, but almost every single pipe you're going to have to edit. So consider rules a start point for Civil 3D. All of these settings are ultimately going into the parts list, and I'm going to show you that in a second. This last piece I'll talk about, I don't see many people using this yet. It's a pretty cool feature. This is called pay items, or QTO, quantity takeoff. Your parts list can contain things called pay items. Now, it does take a little bit of time to set up, not as part of the parts list, but the actual definition of your pay items. You can use one that's out of the box, but in my experience, I sort of always have to seem to make one that's custom for a project or my company. So just like anything in Civil 3D pretty much, it's really just about the setup, the configuration beforehand. So you create this parts list database, sorry, pay item database, and then you map pay items to parts in your parts list. Let me show you what that means. I'll take a look at my proposed storm parts list. There's my parts list. there's my pipes. There's my structures too. I'm going to sort of focus on pipes here. There's my pipes. There's my SolidCAD PVC. I currently don't have pay items attached. Let's see. I wonder if I have pay items attached anywhere else. Let me take a look at another one. Bear with me for a second. All right, there. That's the one I was looking at before. So for the 100 millimeter diameter PVC pipe, I have pay item number 1-1. Really, that just comes from a little text file that I created. It's really not difficult to create a pay item file. But this is the pay item that I've chosen for that pipe, and you match the individual pay item to the individual pipe. This 150 pipe is matched to a 150 pay item. This 2000 millimeter pipe is attached to the 2000 millimeter pay item. When you're done with this, really it's a one click and Civil 3D will calculate how many linear meters of 100 millimeter PVC or 200 millimeter concrete or 800 millimeter HDPE. You're calculating quantities after the fact. But it's very important that this pay item list be set up well in advance of you creating any pipes, because though you can add pay item data to pipes and structures after, it's work. So if you're considering using pay items, do the work, set it up beforehand, do your mapping here in the parts list, and then go to town. All right, so Mr. J. Kwan, how's the questions panel going there?
Yeah, there's been like really great questions so far.
Do you want to pick maybe two to talk about?
Sure. I guess the first one is from Perry. He said, big problem with custom parts is that it's not part of the template. You have to copy the new parts to each user, or am I wrong?
And you said?
My answer was, well, I wasn't quite sure. Like, I mean, it really depends on the setup in my mind. So I said, really depends on the setup, but I think I think you can make it easily accessible if you store the custom catalog in a network or a shared location. And
exactly, I mentioned that during my part of it as well. Absolutely, when you create custom content, it absolutely has to be accessible by all parties, usually on the server someplace. And you have to point everybody's machine. That's the thing that everybody's machine has to do. You got to point everybody's machine to that location. Let's say you have 200 people in your organization. Somebody has to go around and change that setting on everybody's machine. That's a bit of a pain. However, it is just a registry setting. So if you have, IT people in charge of stuff, they can set up a group policy to set that path automatically the next time you log in, if you've got a large organization. Cool, good question. What's another one?
Right. I have another question that's kind of related, I guess. That's from Stuart Radloff, and it's bringing in another party's part network and it doesn't display on your drawing. Is this primarily due to not having the other party's part list / catalog, or is there another reason?
So the question is, they've got a custom part and it doesn't show at all in the drawing?
I guess they're just opening a drawing from another party, and like pipe objects are not showing. I think that's how I understood it. Stuart can correct me if I'm wrong, but is this because like if you have the drawing but you don't have the part list or catalog available?
Well, if the pipe is in the drawing, it should show. It should absolutely show. Even if they don't have the catalog, the pipe will show. There's probably something else going on. Having the catalog, you'll be able to create your own pipes of that size or of that material. But as long as that pipe is actually in the drawing, even though you don't have the catalog, it should still show. And I did the research on this too myself. What I did to test this out, I created a new part myself, made a drawing, and then I deleted the catalog. And I opened the drawing again, and it was still there. So I would expect there to be something else going on with that. They really should show.
Okay.
So if and when that pops up, we've got like a bunch of civil experts across Canada here at SolidCAD. One of us should be able to answer that question. By the way, since we're on the topic of technical support now, feel free, if you've got a favorite Civil 3D or AutoCAD tech person, let's say at SolidCAD, could be Jay, could be Colin or Dave or Prem or anybody like that, feel free to contact them directly. But understand that we sometimes teach and we may not get back to you right away. SolidCAD does have a full-time technical support staff. Go to the SolidCAD website and you can find the email address and the phone numbers. If it's a Civil 3D question, there's a good chance it'll come to one of us. But starting with our full-time tech support, they'll be able to funnel the question to whomever is available. So thanks, Jay. I think we'll move on and we'll attack some of those questions a bit later. Thanks.
No problem.
Putting everything together. Your imported parts from the catalog, the appropriate styles and rules, the correct pay items in the right spot, all those things go together into a single parts list in your drawing. And you're going to need multiple parts lists because it's really just about all those things. You can't have one parts list that fits everything from existing sand, support, proposed sand, and storm, whatever. You have to have multiple parts lists. Really, you need to have a parts list for every utility type. Existing sand and storm, proposed sand and storm, and this is just a small list. You could have existing water, proposed water, future. Anytime where you need different styles applied, different layers, maybe even different rules and pay items, you need appropriate parts lists for those things. All right, creating the pipe network itself. Before you create the pipe network, or pipe networks that is, you've got a few considerations. One of which is the surface consideration. So I'm going to open up a new drawing here. While that's opening, I'll switch back. Pipes and structures can be associated to only one surface and one alignment at a time. So that pipe has a setting for referenced surface. Why do we need this? Well, it's because of the rules. When Civil 3D is using rules, and one of your rules is cover, well, cover beneath what? Some surface, right? There's our manhole. I have to maintain cover below that surface. So that's why a pipe has a surface assignment to it, purely for the rules. Structures do as well, because structures have a rim elevation, which can be associated with the surface. So typically that would be your design surface. When your design surface changes, your structure rim changes. So that's why we need a surface for pipes and structures. But what about this scenario? The image on the left shows a corridor and a detention pond. Those are two design surfaces. But what about what's happening in between? Well, that's my existing ground surface. So that one pipe is transitioning or transiting across three different surfaces there. How the heck do the rules handle three different surfaces? The answer is it doesn't. So what do? You combine them. That's what you do. So best practice is this. You're going to have multiple surfaces. One is probably your existing ground. And then at least one is going to be your design surface. But you could certainly have several other design surfaces. Multiple corridors, multiple detention ponds, building pads, lot grading. You need to combine those into a single surface and use that surface as your assignment for pipe networks. Right, I have three surfaces here. One's existing, one's the corridor, and one's the pond. And so what I did was I created, oh, it's not there. Where is it? Clearly I don't have the right drawing open. All right, that's fine. I'll just do it again here. I'll make a new surface called, whatever you want to call it, finished. Nice. Ground. You can call it composite. I didn't spell finished right. That's better. Finished ground, composite, whatever you want to call it. Some name that makes it obvious to you that you're combining surfaces. So right now that surface is blank. While I'm here, I'm going to turn the rebuild automatic on. Now, how do I combine these three surfaces into one? It's called paste. So into the finished ground, I'll make an edit. I'll run the paste tool, and I'll paste all the surfaces together. But the order is incredibly important. Almost always you're going to paste the original ground first. It's important if they overlap. If they don't overlap, then it really doesn't matter. But the original ground is underneath everything else. You always typically paste the older surface first, which is the original ground. Paste that one first. The other two, I can simply just select in this list because they don't overlap and it doesn't matter the order. Because when I pick both of them here, I don't know which order it's going to paste them in. And because they don't overlap, it doesn't matter. And so now I have a surface with three surfaces pasted in. I've set it to rebuild automatic, and it's a dynamic thing. So when my corridor is edited or when my detention pond is modified, this composite surface goes along for the ride. It's automatically rebuilt. Let me just show you what it looks like. You've probably used paste surface before, but maybe you haven't used it in the context of pipes. And there it is. My existing ground is out here someplace. There's my corridor surface. There's my pond. So wherever your pipes come from, wherever they go, it's always just one surface now. And that's the surface that you set for your pipe network. Right? When you're creating a pipe network, there's a place for that. Here's my network properties. There's the parts list. Currently, this one doesn't have the surface set. I set it to finished ground. And that's it. So all of my pipe networks will use this same surface. Now, alignment considerations. Let me go back to my PowerPoint for a second. This top right image is a quasi-normal, quasi-typical subdivision. Many users, when they're first starting Civil 3D, they say, oh, well, there's 4 or 5 different roads here, therefore I need to have 4 or 5 different pipe networks. Because a pipe network also has an alignment setting, right here. And so new users look at this and they say, oh, well, this pipe network is associated to that alignment, so I need to duplicate this pipe network for each different street. No, you don't. A pipe network is simply a collection of pipes and structures with some similar properties, such as a naming convention for structures, a parts list, some label settings. These surface and alignment, in fact, everything here can be changed whenever you like. So here's the rules that I go by with pipe networks. When we're talking about alignments, you set the alignment here in the pipe network settings, and that affects pipes that you are about to create. See, I already have pipes in my drawing, and they're associated to Main Street. When I do this, when I change it to 2nd Street, that does not change the associativity of any of my existing pipes. If I've drawn a pipe already and it's already associated to Main Street, this will not change it. but it will change the pipes I'm about to create. So if I clicked OK and started creating new pipes, they will be associated to 2nd Street. So the workflow here is create your pipe network, set up all the settings as you see fit, and then just before you're about to create pipes, come in here and set the appropriate alignment. Make the pipes for that alignment. Then you're about to create pipes on street B. Come in here and set it to street B and then make some new pipes. So you only need one pipe network for proposed storm. One for existing storm, one for proposed sand. Now, here's where opinion sometimes varies. Some users will have not proposed storm or existing storm networks, they'll have a storm network where, when they're about to create existing storm parts, they'll set the parts list to existing storm. Then when they're about to create proposed storm parts, they'll come back here, just like I did for alignments, they'll come back here and say, set this to proposed storm, and then they start making new parts, new pipes then. And that works pretty well too. The benefit of doing that is, let me draw some existing storm pipes right there, existing storm. And then I'm going to draw some proposed storm. I'll start with this manhole. There's a proposed storm. So the blue is proposed, the red is existing. Everything's all connected nicely. Sometimes it makes sense to split up your storm into 2 different networks, existing storm and proposed storm. When you're using data shortcuts, this is where it really starts to make sense. If you're not using data shortcuts, because you can XREF pipes into a drawing and you can label through the XREFs. In fact, I'll talk about that a little bit later. If you're doing that workflow, you could conceivably have one storm network and make it happen, and it would probably work better. But when you're using data shortcuts and data references, referencing a single network into a new drawing, all the pipes are going to look exactly the same. You can only choose one style for pipes and structures. So if you're using data shortcuts, you will be changing styles after you reference a pipe network. So for me, that little bit of functionality outweighs the little bit of benefit I have of connecting existing manholes to proposed pipes. Your mileage may vary, so that's why I'm not necessarily calling this a best practice, but I'm here to give you the information, right? When you use data shortcuts and reference a pipe network into a drawing, all the styles are going to be the same. You will have to make changes to styles. So I don't want to do that, which is why I like to split out my pipe networks. The pipe network itself, things can be named. Out of the box Civil 3D, you're going to have manholes called structure 1, structure 2, structure 3. Most of my customers don't like that. And so they end up renaming all of their manholes. I've seen naming conventions for existing, such as EX1, EX2, maybe for proposed, STM1, STM2, or D1 and D2 for drainage. Pipes are typically labeled out of the box. Most of my customers don't really care if a pipe is named pipe 17 or pipe 326, simply because we don't label the pipe name. But we do label structures, manhole 1, manhole 17. So if you have a standard naming convention, you probably should set up that naming convention in your pipe network. Here's another pipe network setting, surface name, alignment name, we talked about that. In fact, what I'll do is I'll open up a different pipe network here. There's my naming convention for structures. Pipes aren't named. There's the parts list setting. If I want a label set, I'm going to set it here. If I want to label the pipes in a certain way, I'll set that here. Profiles, if I want to label a pipe in a profile a certain way, Or if it's a crossing, I want to label it a different way. So think about how many decisions I've made just now. Okay, a label for crossing, a label for not crossing in profile, that's 2. There's my 3rd decision, structure naming convention. 4th decision, 5th decision, 6th decision. I'm not going to count these because depending on your project, that will change. So, and then there's also the name of the network, 7th, and the utility type, 8. So for every pipe network that you create, we have to make 8 to 10 different decisions for each pipe network. Okay, imagine you have a new employee at your company. They're going to make pipes. They're going to click this button to make a brand new pipe network. And they're going to get to this page. And there's a few decisions that they have to make here. But that's not all. Okay, when you come here and decide, I would suggest not drawing pipes right away, because there's some more decisions that have to be made here. Right? Those decisions that you saw really were the name and some plan settings, but there's naming convention settings, there's profile settings. So at the very least, after you create that pipe network, come in here and make some more decisions. But that new person at your company may not know the answers to all those decisions. So here's what I do. I'm going to get rid of this guy. Just going to check the chat panel for a second. That's questions. No, we're good. All right, here's what I do. In my Civil 3D template, I have these already created. Well, in fact, I have more. I have existing storm, proposed CB, different networks. We'll talk about catch basins later. I'll have existing SAN, proposed SAN. Essentially, all of the networks that I think I'm going to need in the future, I will pre-create them in my Civil 3D template with all those decisions already made. So when that new person starts and they want to make a new storm sewer design, they don't come up here and create a whole new network. All they do is edit this network. We're adding new pipes to this existing network because all the styles, the parts list, the naming convention, the label settings, the layers, it's all set already. I don't have to make any of those decisions. The only decision I have to make now is one that a designer is going to have to make anyway. What size of manhole, what size of pipe, and where does it go? So it's highly recommended to pre-create your pipe networks in your templates so that they're ready to go. Which brings us to the next poll question, all right? We'll do a poll question, then I'll go to Jay again, and we'll see how many questions have come up. All right, polls, there we are. Second question, you'll see right now. Go ahead and give it an answer. Does your Civil 3D template come pre-configured with, there's not enough room, with some pipe networks? So the question is, do you have pipe networks already configured in your template? All right, 62% have voted already. Thank you. We'll give it another minute or a few seconds. Now, I'm seeing about half and half again, 57 to yes and 43 no. Maybe you don't do pipes. And so, of course, you're going to answer no. If you're not a pipes firm, you're going to say no. But if you are a pipes firm, I highly recommend setting it up so that you have your pipe networks pre-created. But yes, again, if you're not a pipes firm, that's maybe why it's 50-50. I would expect a lot of consultants, if they do pipes, to have this already done. But certainly, if you don't have it done, consider it. It's a great idea. One thing about Civil 3D is it's very efficient if your template is efficient. If all those decisions are made and set as default, you will be the most efficient designer you can. All right, the voting slowed down a bit. I see 58-42. I'll pop up this poll. I'll share it so you can see. All right, there it is. Thank you very much for that. There's going to be one more poll just a little bit later. and it's just about 11 o'clock. So Jay, you got a couple other questions for us?
Yeah, I have a question we didn't get to answer last time around. It was from Tricia Lance, and the question was, whoops, I scrolled off. Let me just go find that again. Okay, in the pay item list, I don't think it will differentiate by style because a lot of times I have an EX 8-inch, like existing 8-inch tied to a PR 8-inch, proposed 8-inch. The pay item will add existing pipes and proposed pipes onto one line item, right? And Colin and I both kind of answered, yeah, because it goes by part, even if you have different styles applied to a particular part, it won't separate it in the pay item list. I also added maybe afterwards use quick select and manually add it to a different item, possibly as a workaround, but I'll put it to you for further comment.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. There's not much more I can say about that. Pay items, when you look at pay item, the pay item feature from a high level, it looks pretty awesome. You can calculate the quantities of all these things, and it looks great. Once you start getting into the weeds with pay items, things can happen. Let's say you change the style of this pipe. See, there's a pay item already attached to that. Let's call it a 100 millimeter pay item. Just changing the style will not change the pay item for that. So pay items are good, QTO is good, but it is fraught with the potential for error for that, because sometimes you change styles of things. And like I said, if you change the style, the pay item won't necessarily get changed. So there's some potential for error with pay items. You can attach more than one pay item to a pipe. Now you might think, well, why would I want to do that? 100 PVC and a 150 PVC? That makes no sense. No, that's not what you want to do, but that's what could happen. Typically, the reason I would attach more than one pay item to a single object, because pay items aren't just for calculating new materials. Pay items are calculated for removal as well. So if you have a pipe that must be replaced, you would have a pay item attached for removal of that pipe and a different pay item attached for a new pipe in its place. So that's when you would use multiple pay items. So Jay, your answer was pretty much it. There's not much else we can say about them.
Yeah.
So sorry. One more.
Okay, so the next question was from Stuart Batuzzi. He asked, when you set the surface to the pipe network, does that apply to the parts already drawn? And I answered wrongly that no, you can't change them all afterwards, or it won't go back and like change the ones that you already drew. So in that extent, I guess I was right, but I said you can't change them all like backwards unless you use scripting or third-party tool. But Jeff Lehman jumped into the rescue there, and he said, no, you can assign the surface name in the prospector. And I totally forgot about that. So
yeah, which is right here.
It's still up on the poll screen. If you can.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, forgot about that. I always forget to turn off this freaking poll. All right, there we go. Where's my prospector? There it is. So here's the prospector. That's the top half. There's the reference alignment. That's the reference surface. So those pipes don't have a surface set. So yes, if you made a mistake and maybe you forgot to set the reference surface to a pipe or a structure, absolutely you can come and set it to each pipe all at once in the prospector. But you know, when you create this pipe network itself, like I said before, these settings are for pipes that you are about to create. So I can set up a surface, set up an alignment. As I create new pipes from this point on, those two things will be attached to the new pipes, but changing this now will not affect any pipes that are already drawn. So So you get 50% for that one, Jay, I suppose.
Yeah.
So who responded in chat?
Jeff Lehman.
Jeff, I know who Jeff is. Good, thanks, Jeff. We're a little short on time, so I'm going to cut it at 2 questions. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah.
Feel free, the attendees, to have a gander through the questions panel now, or we're going to leave this meeting going a few minutes after 11:30 Pacific, so you can keep your eye on those questions as well, and we'll stick around a little bit to answer new questions too. So thanks, I will continue. Okay, existing utilities. I'm going to pop up this poll right away. I want to see your opinion. Okay, brand new poll, last one of the day. Question is, do you model existing underground utilities in Civil 3D as pipes or as pressure pipes? Doesn't matter which one, just a yes or no. If it's pipes, if it's pressure pipes, do you model your existing underground utilities? And again, the answer could be skewed here because not everybody is required to show existing underground utilities. All right, 62% voted. Again, it's pretty close to half and half. And there's no right or wrong answer here. If you do, great. If you don't, fine. There's multiple ways to make it happen. Maybe you don't need to model them either. All right, voting slowing down a little bit. We've got 67%. Give it 10 more seconds. All right, just about 70%. I don't see the ratio changing much, so I'm going to close the poll and I'll share it. You're going to see 56 to 44%. So just a little bit more than half do, in fact, model their underground existing utilities. So thank you very much. All right, I will close that poll so you can actually see my screen this time. Thank you very much for voting. So you might want to know why. Why would we want to model our existing utilities? In plan view, I don't suppose it matters all that much. You can draw a polyline or a line in plan view and just put a piece of text in it, and there's an existing storm sewer, or there's an existing gas main, or there's an existing cable TV duct. Great in plan. But then when it comes to profile, you're going to have, let's say, an existing water main that runs parallel to your alignment, and you want to show it like this. And you're going to have an existing cable TV duct. We probably don't know the actual elevation of it, so we probably assume it's a meter deep below existing ground, or 1.5, or whatever your number is. But we need to show that ellipse in profile, and possibly we need to label it. And then over here, we've got an existing gas main that we want to show as well. So if your design needs to show these existing utilities in profile, it would behoove you to model them properly. If you don't model them properly, you draw them just as lines in plan view, you're facing a fair amount of work to show them in profile. Not as much with this type of parallel line, because there's probably fewer of those. I've run across a design that had 160-ish crossings. So it was the designer's task, right? There's my alignment and plan, and there's my gas main or cable TV duct that crosses. I have to figure out what station this is. So in profile view, okay, well, whatever, there, that's my station. Then I got to figure out what elevation it is, about a meter below that. Then I have to insert my block or draw my ellipse. Then in this case, I have to draw a line down to the bottom. I have to label it, manually, of course. Calculate the actual elevation. So each one of these things takes time, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, maybe more. And so in the project that I saw with 160 crossings, if they took 2 minutes each, that's 320 minutes. That's a lot of work. It's over 5 hours of just showing this. Guess what? If you'd modeled these things correctly, using Civil 3D parts, putting them in profile takes exactly 0 seconds. If you've modeled them correctly and if your styles are set right, you're going to be saving yourself a ton of time on a project like this, at least. So how do you do it? By the way, for those astute enough to have a look, yes, that does say 2021. That was released 6 days ago, and I sort of had to scramble to modify this webinar just a little bit because there's a really cool tool that's going to help us. And I'll show that off, however, briefly. I like to use pressure networks for my existing utilities. All right, let me open a drawing here. That's our time. I gotta hurry up a little bit. Existing utilities 2021. So I prefer to use pressure networks for my existing utilities. Well, it used to be for one reason, but now that 2021 is out, I have another reason to want to use them. By the way, I wish I could talk about 2021 a lot more, but that's not about what this thing is about. But I will say, if you're not using pressure networks because of what you perceive as limited functionality, and I would have tended to agree with you in prior versions of Civil 3D, I would highly recommend rethinking it. Have a look at 2021, see if you can make the new features work for you, because they work for me. If I was still in consulting, I would seriously consider using pressure pipes now. It's that much better. All right, so pressure pipes, I have a custom catalog that I've set up for this, and just like pipe networks, I have existing pressure networks pre-created in my template as well, just for such an occasion. All right, so I'm going to edit this pressure network, cable TV. Pipe run name, parts list, water. Actually, what I want to do instead, I'm still getting used to 2021 a little bit. That's not what I wanted to do. All right, that's fine. Let's see, what do I want to do? Yes, definitely I'm getting used to 2021. So there it is, there it is. That's not, oh man, I'm totally embarrassing myself. All right, let's try again. There, that's what I wanted. Parts, that's totally not what I wanted. All right, one more time, sorry about that. I'll add a pipe run. I'll pick the parts list, which should have already been set, layers, surface, and we have this option now with 2021. Essentially, what's going to happen, I pick a point here and a point here and a point here. This pipe run will automatically follow a surface. So for cable TV and gas and other kinds of ducts where you're assuming some kind of depth, 2021 is going to be a really, really big help. And I'm just going to eyeball these locations here. There we are, got a pipe run, it's automatically labeled properly. And it's already been put at the appropriate elevation. And so if I come in here with the pipe run profile, there's the pipe run that I created. I actually have two choices. Well, several choices. What's my offset style? Is the offset based on the cut length? So a cut length for a pressure pipe, not all pressure catalogs have cut lengths. So if you have got a 100-meter long pipe, well, that's the end and that's the start. And those are the only 2 points that the cover is going to be calculated on. But if you're using cut length, you can specify a cut length of 5 or 7 or however long the pipes are supposed to be. And when it tries to follow the surface, it uses those cut lengths. Or I can choose offsets of fittings. Now, with the profile, I can choose to use a surface or an actual profile. I'm going to choose to use existing ground. And what's my depth? 1 meter, maybe 1.5. I want it to update dynamically. and I'm going to show it in an existing profile view. And if I did everything right, it'll show properly. Now, I didn't quite do everything right because my default style is crossing, because this pipe crosses the alignment twice. I'll just come down here and quickly change the style to the parallel type. Oh, that's the alignment, pardon me. Oops. There it is. Style. I would like to use existing cable TV profile. There we are. So it doesn't change in plan. It's the same color. It's the same whatever, but it will have changed here. Right, so as you can see, it's following the red existing ground surface automatically. It's exactly 1.5 meters cover below that. If I made a change to the pipe or the surface, it would dynamically update. So that's what 2021 can give you. And as far as just using 2020 and prior, you can still use the pressure networks. It's just not going to follow the surface automatically, though you can tell it to with a manual edit. So modeling your existing utilities, showing them in profile view, showing the crossings is going to do nothing but help you. It's going to save some time. And in my example earlier, when you have to draw these manually, well, what happens when the alignment changes? These things are now at the wrong station. So sure, you've added all 160 crossings, but then when the alignment changes, well, now you've got a lot more work to do to move them to the right station now. So it's recommended to model your existing utilities if you can. Pipes and structures, there's not a heck of a lot here that I'm going to say about drawing these things. You pick points in plan and you get manholes, and pipes join those manholes. And then in profile, you choose which invert elevations you want. So I'm not going to talk about those too much. I will talk a little bit about laterals. I need to check my time. All right, got a few minutes left. So I'll go quick here. Laterals, catch basins. In the US, apparently, there's almost always a structure at the main where a catch basin is. So the catch basin lead just goes into that structure on the main, and that's how they do things. In my experience, limited as it may be, because I'm just on the West Coast, we have a storm main up the center of the road, we have manholes at various locations, and we have lots more catch basins than we have manholes. And the catch basin leads just go into the main. They tie into the main using a Y or some other kind of connection. Civil 3D really isn't built to do that properly. If you're interested, go to the Civil 3D idea station and search for the word storm sewer laterals and vote that wish up. Me and a couple of friends, there's like 30 or 40 votes. We need more. If you want this kind of functionality to exist in Civil 3D, go to the Civil 3D idea station. That's where the wishes exist. And this wish is already in there. If you feel like voting it up, please do. The more votes we get, the more chance we get of making this happen. So how do we do it then in Civil 3D? Well, it's really all just a bunch of workarounds. The best way I've figured out to do this, and I'll show it really quick here because we're sort of running out of time here, is to have them in separate networks. Have your storm sewer in one network, have your laterals, your CBs, not just catch basins, but service connections for properties as well. That's considered to be lateral. Have them in separate networks. And as you're drawing the laterals, place structures at both ends of the laterals. So if I want to put a catch basin here, I'll put it there. And I'll just snap to that pipe. It's not going to break the pipe because it's in a different network. You're going to end up with two structures. One's going to be a catch basin, And the other is going to be a catch basin too, but it's going to be right on the main. And you're going to be tempted to erase that structure, but don't right away, because what happens when you project that into profile, it's going to show up here as a structure. But you're going to be able to see a little ellipse, which tells you where your CB lead is, and you're going to be able to figure out what elevation to use. So I'll go through this real quick here. You're going to see an ellipse here, or maybe it's going to be down here. That's the endpoint of your catch basin lead. Now, so we know what station it is, and I can sort of eyeball the elevation right there if I want the lead to attach to the storm main top outlet. I know what elevation that is. Then I can go to the CB lead object itself and type in that elevation. So yeah, it's a total workaround. It's a manual thing. And then when the storm sewer changes in the middle of the street, you're going to have a bunch of rework to do. But there's workarounds that make it less painful. By the way, these best practice series, first one today is pipe networks, last week was corridors, and the one before that I totally don't remember.
It was alignments.
Thank you. I was hoping somebody would say that. I created these as actual half-day courses. So if you're interested in getting into the weeds with those things with us, certainly sign up. Those aren't free, the half-day ones. This 90-minute thing is. But if you really want to learn more about this, get the data sets and get the actual how-to documentation, contact us and we can work on a half-day session for you. And we'll go through all the nitty-gritty details of how to make this happen. So laterals, yes, they are sort of a bit of a pain. It's all about workarounds right now until that feature request gets granted. Lastly, data shortcuts, or not even just data shortcuts, plan production. How do we get our pipes into some drawing that's the plan production drawing? You really have two choices. Do you want to XREF your pipes or do you want to DREF your pipes? There's actually pros and cons to each. So for the next couple minutes, I'll show you because I need to give Saeed a couple minutes. There we are. Production XREF, production DREF. Let's do this one. So data referencing brings in the pipe network. You're allowed to change the styles all you want. You can obviously label everything you want. You can put everything in plan profile as you wish. So probably the DREF method is the best for most people, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. If you're not concerned about profile, then XREF might be good enough for you. Right? I've got some pipes XREF'd here. And what I can do is I can go to the annotate tab and I can just start labeling through the XREF. All right, so what do I want to do? I want to say entire network plan. And those labels are probably fine. I'll hit add. Even though it's an XREF, I can add labels. You do not have to data reference things. You don't have to use shortcuts if all you want to do is label things. Not just for pipes, by the way. Alignments, corridors, pipes, everything that can be labeled through an XREF. If the XREF is edited and I reload it, the labels get updated. Now, there is a prerequisite. Your XREF absolutely positively must be at insertion point 000. If you have to move your XREF, you can't use this feature. The scale must be 1, exactly. The rotation must be 0. These three things are normally configured like this for us anyway. But that's the rule. If you have to change any of these things, you can't use this feature. If I were to unload this XREF, the labels would disappear, but they'd come back when I reloaded it. If I were to detach the XREF, well, then the labels are gone for good. So understand that for your plan production files, if you're not really too worried about profile, all you want to do is label things in plan. Feel free to just XREF your base and label them right here. Now, my pipes in the base were not labeled. I think hopefully for obvious reasons. If they're labeled in the base already, well, now I'm going to have double labels. I don't want that. So they cannot be labeled in the base, or at the very least, you're going to have to freeze that layer. I won't really go into data references too much. Basically, a data reference, you're referencing a pipe network object. It's an actual object in this drawing that can be labeled, that can be projected into profile. It's an object just like any other, except you can't make changes to it. That's what data shortcuts are all about. It's sort of like XREF, but it's for individual civil 3D objects. So what do you want to do? If you're worried about profiles, then pretty much data shortcuts and data references are your option. If you're just concerned about plan labels, data references too, that's fine. But consider XREFs, it might work for you. The nice thing about using XREFs is if the pipes are using the proper style in the base, they're going to use that same style here. One problem that you can potentially have with data references is, like I mentioned earlier, when you reference pipes in here, it's possible that their styles are incorrect, at least when compared to the base. So there's your two options for plan production. And that brings me to the end. What did we do today? We talked about custom catalogs. If you're going to create custom parts, you need to make that custom catalog available to your colleagues, usually on the server. Parts lists, styles, layers, QTO, pay items, rules, all those things go in to create a parts list, and you're going to need a bunch of parts lists. Network setup. Make your networks in your template. Proposed sand, existing sand, proposed storm, existing storm. Make all those decisions in your template so you have less work to do later. Pipes and structures. Well, just go ahead and draw them. Laterals, we talked a little bit about. Catch basins, service connections. There's always workarounds that have to be done. Go to the idea station, vote the wish up. And then finally, plan production, we just talked about. Do you want a data reference? Do you want an XREF? There's pros and cons to each. We talked about a little bit of 2021 in there. It's looking pretty good. I had the pleasure of working in the beta a little bit back in December. And so, yeah, check out 2021, download it, install it, see how it works for you. And that's pretty much it for me. There's my email address. I'm going to let Saeed take over. He's got some closing comments. We're going to stay open a little bit after 11:30 just to finish answering questions. Sorry, Jay, I couldn't get to you the last time here, but if the attendees want to take a look at the questions panel, all the questions are there and they're going to see your answers as well. So Saeed, I'll let you finish up.
Thank you very much, Matt, for a fantastic presentation, as usual, I have to say. Thank you, Jay and Colin, for being on the back end, taking questions, a lot of questions today, so I'm excited. But I have more exciting news. So our workshops, I just got an email right now. We're gonna be opening our workshops for free to our customers. Sub-assembly composer tomorrow, 3.5 hours, half day in the afternoon Eastern time. Next week, productivity workshop about advanced road reconstruction. These are top of the line. We have limited seats, so please go to our website, click on training calendar, and then you have a bunch of our offerings. Go through the productivity workshop and register. Limited spots, so please do it now. I'm not gonna spend more time with this. I think we should dedicate more time to the questions. So please, Jay and Colin, bring back those questions.
All right, thanks, Saeed. I'll let Jay sort of take over. Maybe go over a few that you've got some good answers to, and then we'll talk about some that maybe we don't have good answers to yet.
Okay, let me just scroll back a little bit here. There have been a lot of comments and questions, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, so well, I mean, this might be a bit of a softball, but Adam Johnston asked, for a company that still produces plan and profile drawings without pipe networks, how much time would be needed to be invested into creating custom pipe networks and pipe styles for the standard template drawing from scratch? And I mean, I answered, well, you can spend very little time and get something up and running. And I think on that, Perry agreed. And but you know, as with all things, I mean, depends on how much you want to pack into it. So I mean, if you wanted to put a lot of detail into it, you can. But just to get it up and running for planned production purposes, very little time to get up and running, and a lot of manual work and potential for error cut out for very little time invested was my answer.
Yeah, pretty much. If you're gonna start creating custom catalogs and multiple different materials, then you're starting to get into a day, 2 days, 3 days kinds of things. But you don't have to go to that level right away. So yeah, you're totally right what you said. I'm going to interject just for a second here. In the chat panel, I just pasted the link to the Civil 3D Idea Station wish list item. And so if you feel like voting that thing up, click there. You're going to have to log in, but that's where it is. It didn't really format very well, so I'll paste it again. So all right, continue.
Okay. The next question I thought interesting because I haven't run into that situation too often. This is from Haruko Kagami. And she said, we noticed some issue when we have when we have pipe network, pipe-based drawing, extract into our production drawing, then data shortcut the same pipe to the same production drawing. It seems the production drawing doesn't know which info to use when there are two sources of the same data coming into the same drawing. I kind of answered, typically it's best practice to either deref it or xref it. I guess probably not both, but I don't know. There might be a good reason for doing that. I'm not sure myself, but so that was a good observation, and we'll check that out.
Agreed. I think possibly what could happen, your ultimate goal is you want to deref the pipe network in, so you do so, but you want to xref the same drawing because maybe there's other stuff in there. You don't want to deref, you want to xref instead. So maybe due to happenstance, they just happen to be xrefed in there. So I think what I would probably do in that case is just turn off the xref layers for the pipes if they're already being derefed. So, but you're right, basically pick one. And if you can't pick one, maybe turning off the layers is the best idea.
And I think I might be missing one. Colin, jump in if you notice one that I missed, but I think that's about it. I think the rest of it, there were a couple questions that were a little too complicated to answer over this format and maybe an email follow-up, but I think that's about it.
Indeed, yeah, email any of the three of us on the screen there, and we're more than happy to get back to you. By the way, this session is being recorded, so it will be up on the SolidCAD YouTube channel soon. Exactly how long that takes, I'm not really sure, but it'll be up there sometime. Any other questions you thought were maybe good to bring up? So something that people might not know. I'm putting you on the spot now. We talked about throwing people under the bus.
I'm gonna throw you under the bus. No, I'm just joking. No, I see people asking questions about our workshop. So we have two sections in our website where you can find what we're doing. We have the training calendar when we have everything that it's paid, courses, workshops, and things like that. And we have our event section where you can find webinars, road shows, things that are complimentary. So please check for the workshop. Those who are asking for the workshops, go to training and training calendar. Look for April 22nd, and you'll find the productivity for the sub-assembly composer. And the next one will be road reconstruction on the 30th. If you have issues locating the link, I just copied on the chat the link for the sub-assembly composer, and you have my email if you need any kind of assistance just getting into this course.
All right. So if there's no other questions that you guys want to share, I think we're good to go. All right, that seems to be about it.
Awesome.
What time is it? 11:33. All right, that sounds about right. So thanks everybody for showing up. My name is Matt. On behalf of Colin and Jay and Saeed, thanks very much for showing up. Keep an eye on our calendar for upcoming best practice series webinars, and I will hope to see you at those. Thank you very much, and we will sign out.
Take care, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, guys.